Is this referencing or is this art tracing? I will let you be the judge of this because the internet is kind of split. So this all starts with this tweet tweeted out by I Hug Lee Hemin. Their like nickname is like Hazel, so I'll be referring to them as Hazel. They write, "How can you sell merch with art that you took the reference from other artists and don't even bother to give credit? Isn't this considered tracing art? Is this even allowed?" And this is a screenshot of an art print that is being sold by an artist by the name of Mayq. By the way, don't send hate to any parties involved. Please do not do that. An art piece that looks very, very similar to Mayq's piece. And here are some prints of that piece as well. This is actually art made by an artist by the name of Blackbox. They have multiple Twitter pages, but this is one of their Twitter pages. They are the official web novel artist for a web novel turned webtoon turned, I think, potential anime called Omniscient Reader's Viewpoint. This is a web novel written by Sing and Song, super popular, did really, really well on Webtoon as well. And again, Blackbox was the official web novel artist. And if we look at the two pieces, these are really similar. Really, really similar. So this is a piece of the main character of Omniscient Reader's Viewpoint, and this is Mayq's work, which is like art piece of a different fandom called Alien Stage with a character called Till. If you put the art on top of each other, it's not exactly one to one, right? The coat posing is a bit different, etc. The hand is pretty similar in the arrangement, placement, etc. But there's some like posing changes, etc. One thing that I think is interesting though is that the rendering is like exactly the same, right? This is the OG one again. The shape of the blood on the coat is really similar. The shape of the coat is similar. But look at like where all the highlights and shadows are placed, with every ripple in the coat following the exact same pattern as the original artist. And then look at where the kind of like extra effects are added. There's all these like white kind of like speckles added like here on the hip, here on the right shoulder, on the arm. It is placed in the exact same spot on the artist's piece, Mayq's piece. That is basically like one to one. People in the comments are kind of like fighting back and forth because people were saying, well, it's not exactly traced because if you overlap one on top of the other, it's not one to one, which is true. But to me, this is a point where like referencing at this point has gone too far. You can't officially say this is a reference anymore due to the fact that like way too much has been taken from the original artist piece. They say take it and change it up and make it your own. Not enough was done to really make it your own without people instantly clocking the fact that your art is actually just heavily based off of the Black Box's original piece. People were saying normally you can kind of maybe turn a blind eye, etc., to the referencing in quotes, except for the fact that this was actually being sold as a print for profit. And this is where we're crossing into suspicious territory because now it's not just kind of like oh, you probably shouldn't do that, take a little bit more liberty to make it your own, but instead there's also money to be made here, which gets a little So Hazel adds, not only that, but you use heavy references for these arts as well. So here we have another print being sold, this time also of what appears to be Till from Alien Stage, this time, in a spacesuit with some letters kind of like floating around. Here's an art piece made by Blackbox. Same concept. And at first when I was looking at it, I was like, oh, well, like it looks like they heavily use the concept with no credit, because like people always make the argument, oh, the artist doesn't own a pose, da da da. Like, does Blackbox own the concept of this character in an astronaut suit in space? Absolutely not, because that's like a legitimate real thing that happens. But then there's this like unique addition of the letters floating with all the like stardust flying and they're kind of staring at their hand like that. Blackbox did that in their piece. But then you kind of overlap the pieces. And then I did a little bit of doctoring where like I moved the hand down a little bit and you could argue, okay, well, this doesn't count cat because like you had to adjust the piece to make it fit the other piece. So it doesn't count as tracing anymore, right? And sure, right, because this is like an extra step that was taken. There are times where artists will trace another piece and then to try to like hide it, they kind of like, I don't know, chop up their original art piece, rearrange it, and then call it a day to try to like skirt by it a little bit more. So it's up to you as to what you think. But it is a little similar again when you do that, like, it's looking a little similar. I don't know. Now, to give benefit of doubt though, right? This is like a generic anime man face. This is a generic anime man face. There are only certain places you put features, like the eyes go above the nose, the mouth goes below the nose, and the typical you have the pointed nose features, whatever. So you could argue that this is just like the typical anime style and why the face lines up so well. Sure, I'll like definitely take that, right? But again, we kind of go into the, oh, but like, why does it look so similar again? Where we once again have the chess pieces looking really similar. In Blackbox's art piece, there's like a little bit of like a wrinkle of the clothing up here. The wrinkle is also present in Mayq's artwork. These sides pieces also present. Even the direction of all the highlights and the light source, I kind of cropped it out a little bit in this, but in Blackbox's piece, the light source makes sense because there's essentially like Earth down here, so or like the moon, so it's reflecting onto the helmet. I guess to make the light source make sense, Make you added these like little orange lights here to have that same sort of like light direction. Like it's just getting a little interesting at how similar it looks like. Hazel also references these two, this being another print being sold, and this being more artwork from Blackbox, also of the same medium. And again, at first looking side by side, I was like, oh, well, these are pretty different. Maybe this is the case where like the concept of two characters laying side by side with like a circular frame, in this case, a clock framing them. Maybe that's why, it was the concept that was borrowed. Should credit have been given? Possibly. And then it's kind of like, wait, but like, why does this bottom character line up kind of closely to the other character? I don't know. The hand is really similar. Just look at the hand, but like, even the clothing is the same. So again, it's kind of like, well, was it a little different? Sure, right? Was enough made different for it to be made into your own piece? And that is hard to tell. And then we also have this. This is a piece of Ivan and Till from Alien Stage that was drawn by Mayq. And then this is also Blackbox's work, from my knowledge. The concept is similar, yeah, but I do think in these two specifically, enough was made different by Mayq that it's inspired. I don't think this one is like an issue. This is a tweet posted by Blackbox. This is the translation, where I have permission to use my fan art only as a profile photo on Twitter. Re-uploading or editing is prohibited. And please don't use pictures I deleted. Please don't send me fan art requests through mentions or email. They burden me. I draw when I have time, out of love for the art, and when an idea comes to me. So again, it's kind of iffy, right? Don't send hate to any parties involved. Do not do that. That's mean. That's rude. The artist that was accused of tracing never made a statement as of now. The only thing I could really find is this, where somebody had like in their straw page, which you can leave like anonymous comments and stuff, so had like written something. They said Tracer, and then they drew an arrow and they wrote, I'm already Tracer. And this is, oh my God. If you played Overwatch, this is in reference to an Overwatch song called No Mercy by The Living Tombstone. Kind of like joking about like, oh, you should have played this character. Oh, but I'm already playing it. These are the quotes, where it's like, oh, maybe I'll be Tracer. I'm already Tracer. What about Widowmaker? I'm already Widowmaker. So it's kind of like a joke about that. I played so much Overwatch back in the day. Oh my Lord. But I'm curious about your thoughts. Do you think this is like active tracing? Do you think this is a case where referencing went too far? Benefit of doubt, if you want to look at the positive way, maybe this is a case where the artist is referencing Blackbox and just took it way too far. Or if you look at it from like the negative lens, well, they're directly tracing Blackbox's work and reworking it to try to like hide it, one to one. I'm gonna try to err on the positive side. Possibly, they just think they're referencing and they definitely took it too far. Definitely. If you're an artist, if you want to avoid this situation, my tip for you is use more than one reference. If you use only one reference and that one reference is an art piece, your art piece will end up looking like their art piece. Whether you want it to or not, it will. If use more than one reference. That way, your art will not look like exactly one to one that reference because you have multiple. Yippee! So yeah, don't send hate to any parties again. But if you like this video, I appreciate it if you like and subscribe. Don't forget to check me out on Etsy. I have digital art there for streamers and creators. I also have a coffee with free resources like a free sponsorship guide. And I stream on Twitch 3 days a week, Mondays, Wednesdays, Saturdays at 6 p.m. PST. So I hope to catch y'all there or in another video. And I'm losing my voice, sorry. Peace.